Hello, everyone. This is your host, alexbalgood, and this is Leap of Health. And today we have Justin Glaser. He's an author of this amazing book. It just came out, and it's called Sweat. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And before we dive into your book, because I'm like super curious about this topic, because I think it's super important, tell us a little bit about yourself and how do you come out about writing a book about sweat?
Yeah, I definitely couldn't have predicted this even a few years ago. So in my early 20s, I'm 28 now. In my early 20s, I had a bit of a health crisis where um, I was just dealing with a lot of fatigue, maybe even chronic fatigue, brain fog, mental clarity issues, depressive swings, just really run down. And I kind of hit a point where I realized if I don't solve this, it's going to be a problem for the rest of my life. So graduating from college, I became obsessed with figuring it out because I really felt like my back was against a wall, which a lot of people do when they reach that situation. So I went to Western doctors, Eastern doctors, every discipline under the sun to try and figure it out for a couple of years. And during that process, learned a ton, tried a ton of things. Nothing really made a dent in it until I started to sauna. And so unexpectedly, after my first session, I felt relief that I didn't get from anything else. And so I didn't understand why. It helped temporarily, but it wasn't like a cure, let's say, where I felt like my old self again. But with continued use, it slowly was the thing that really transformed my health. And I didn't understand why. And so as I continued to sauna, I started to research heavily, talk to experts, join groups, read books to get a sense of what the reason for that was. And what I found was kind of a counterintuitive approach to health that I think is that thousands of other people have used and has transformed their health. And I hadn't seen presented in a way that I thought it deserved to be presented. So this year I decided to kind of put that information together and present it. And that's what Sweat's all about.
Nice. I feel like a lot of people that I interview in my podcast, uh, we reach that point of like, there's nothing else that, nobody can give us an answer.
Mm.
Nobody, until we actually look for ourselves. So this is great because a lot of people might be going through the same thing and they might read your book or listen to this podcast and might be able to help them in some sort of way. So tell us what the book is about. I know it's about sweat. What are some of those findings that you found like incredible that you were like, oh my God, I would have never thought sweat will help me
Mm.
this much with what I'm going through.
So I think it's a new paradigm for thinking about your health that the people who embrace it see transformative results. So the people that believe this, they believe a few things. They believe that there's a massive underappreciation or underestimation of let's call them toxins impact on our health. So in the modern world, the last 60 years, we've been introduced to tens of thousands of chemicals that interact on their own in poisonous ways within the body and then synergistically in negative ways within the body.
Mhm.
And, I present the research showing that they're largely linked to most of the major problems we deal with, mental health and physical health and disease wise. And so first you have to embrace that as an idea, which you just won't get from a mainstream perspective.
Mhm.
And then really the second component is how to deal with that. So there's two components to that. One is avoidance. So learning how to minimize your exposure to these toxins, which I lay out partially. And then also how to get it out of your system, because if you're on the planet, you're dealing with these things to varying levels. Um, and it turns out the best way to get rid of these things is through the body's largest detox organ, which is the skin, and through sweat. And so getting over
Correct.
the misconception that, a lot of people still believe it's just the liver that detoxes or there's other detoxification pathways, which there are. But I go through the
Mhm.
research showing that a lot of these substances are preferentially excreted through the sweat. And so regular profuse sweating is one of the most powerful things you could do for your health because you're dealing with the root cause of all of these. It's like the roots that grow into 1,000 branches. You're dealing with the root. And um, the incredible changes that happen when you get these substances out of your body. Your energy goes up, your mood gets better, your mental clarity gets clearer, your brain fog lifts, your ability to getting sick decreases. Not medical advice, I have to kind of say that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, just this remarkable these remarkable changes that happen if you embrace those ideas and then act on them through sweating regularly.
Mm-hmm. And it just sounds so simple, right? Like
Mhm.
just sweat. And
Yeah.
it's almost like going back to basics. A lot of people don't understand because if you really think about it, how many times a week do you sweat, right? Some people probably don't sweat for a day or two because they're so sedentary. So they're like, just doing computer work, or they're literally walking from the house to the car, to the car, to the
Mhm.
office, and the same going back. So, you don't have that opportunity to actually sweat unless you
Yeah.
actually are doing some sort of workout or you're cleaning your house or something like that, right? But really, if we really think about it, on this topic of sweat, how many times a week you're actually breaking a sweat, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. And breaking a sweat is one thing, but like with what we're up against in terms of exposure,
Mm-hmm.
intentionally sweating profusely is something people perhaps never do. Um, we have air conditioning, which means you're not breaking the sweat as often, like you said, a sedentary lifestyle.
Right.
And so people like it's just not as common as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing with this modern issue that our ancestors weren't. But even our ancestors, my first chapter in the book is all about the cultures around the world,
Mm-hmm.
um, every culture practically, using some form of sauna or sweat lodge
Mm-hmm.
regularly, or through rituals, or just regularly as a practice. Native Americans, the Russians, the Turkish, the Peruvians, the Africans, they all had some form of this. So
Mm-hmm.
they use it for
The,
different reasons, but it certainly kind of it shows that it's not some new hack, but it's something we've intuitively recognized the power in, and now it's more
mm-hmm.
important than ever.
Yeah. And they did it often, and they did it all the time. I think they intuitively they knew that it was something good for them. I feel like even just thinking about my family, for example, my grandma, my aunts, if let's say you had some sort of a flu, or you're not feeling well, or you have sinuses or something like that, uh, cover up until you break a sweat and go outside in the sun, get some sun. Or they will actually do like these, boil some water and do um, some sort of like sauna just for your head type of thing. So your nostrils will open so you can
Yep.
actually sweat and help with all that. And those things, I also feel like they're so easy to do. Like we can sweat by just not turning on the AC so often. Well, what are some of the things that you find out that we could do better for sweating? Let's, I know one of the things will be like working out, but what are some of the other things that we can embrace in our daily life that you find out useful for you, or like, just to tell others?
Yeah, I think for me, I started with sauna, and it turns out that's perhaps the easiest and best way to sweat, because what we're looking for is really not like you broke a sweat, but like you're drenching two towels in sweat
Mm,
during a session. So, a 20 to 30 minute sauna session where you're sweating profusely, you wipe, and new sweat emerges and you wipe. That's really what we're after, which probably sounds extreme to a lot of people when I think about it. But when you feel the results of that, one, it becomes addicting, but two, it becomes sort of undeniable that there's a direct link between that and how you're feeling, for the reasons I kind of go into in the book, especially the toxin issue. So sauna is the most powerful. Hot
mhm,
yoga is an option. Um, intense exercise, hopefully minimizing the amount of clothing you have on, because you just want to give yourself room, and your clothing has chemicals in it, unfortunately, most of them. And so really this is about getting as much out of your system as possible, and sauna is the best way to do that. I don't recommend steam rooms. That doesn't seem to be a good choice for a couple of reasons. Mold grows in damp, cold places, which is what a damp, warm places rather. Sorry, which is what a steam room is, and
Mm,
you're breathing in the water vapors, which is often tap water, which is contaminated almost all the time. So, preferentially a dry sauna or an infrared sauna.
mhm. Yeah, I that's a great point because I didn't put two and two together. What was the difference until you mentioned like the water?
Mm-hmm.
And is it? I mean, it's just like so crazy how everything has so many toxins. The air quality is bad, the water is bad. There's so many things, that we have done to our planet that it just sucks, right? That all these things are like a lot of these things are so bad for you.
Yeah, it is. I think I think I would have been in trouble if the sweat honestly didn't exist as a tool for getting this stuff out. Because um, fortunately, it is. If the body didn't sort of have this capacity to push these substances out, it'd be
Hmm.
really difficult. Because I think people who get into this can feel when they don't do it for a while, sort of like the buildup
Hmm.
effects of not being able to excrete these substances out of the body. Um,
Yeah.
but we can either kind of bury our head in the sand and pretend it's not a real issue and downplay it, or get into that middle ground where it's scary and then get to the other side where we start implementing solutions and feel the impact of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, we have so many technology now, and we have a lot of different tools that we could use. You mentioned sauna or infrared sauna, which is,
Mm-hmm.
another thing that we can use to sweat. And they have so many things now. They have so many infrared lights that help you to sweat all these toxins out.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found or have you used any of those technologies besides the just conventional sauna?
So I use an infrared sauna. I have one actually. The
Mm-hmm.
problem with this sauna space, I just want to like warn your audience, is it's unregulated.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a couple issues. So if you think of like a plastic water bottle in a really hot car, let's say you leave and come back and try and drink it, it's going to taste like plastic because toxins migrate with heat. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you have a sauna that has a build using toxic materials, that's going to leach into the air in a hot box with no place to escape. And you're going to breathe that in, which is the exact opposite of what you're in the sauna for. And
Mm-hmm.
so with a public dry sauna, it's a little bit less of an issue because it's on like 12 hours a day. And so in the same way, if you like left a couch outside, it would off gas a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that's gonna be gone because it's just been heated so much that it's gonna have kind of gotten into the air and hopefully out. So it's less of an issue than if you have your own personal one that's made with bad materials. Then the other issue is something called EMFs, which are electromagnetic frequencies, which there's debates about how significant that is, but it's not looking great from what I've
Mm-hmm.
researched. And
Right.
so a lot of brands have difficult have let's just say make false claims about their EMF levels. You'll see I'm in a Facebook group with 50,000 members. Maybe we can link for your
Yeah,
audience.
of course.
It's very
Yeah, yes.
valuable. That taught me a lot of this information.
Mm-hmm.
Where they get a sauna from a company that says it's low EMF, and they walk in with an EMF meter and it's off the chart, and it's
Yeah.
like you're just radiating yourself all day in like a cancer box if you do that. So we can link to that group. My friend Brett runs that group. It's terrific. Um,
Nice.
and so, I think that's a common thing with health is, okay, I think these are the benefits, but what else might I not be considering that could be bad?
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of the main things to look out for when it comes to sauna is making sure you're using a quality one that isn't counterproductive, which unfortunately a lot are. I wouldn't recommend any portable saunas. We haven't found any in that Facebook group that kind of pass that sniff test of low EMF and toxin free. So,
Yeah.
the ones where it's like a tent and you stick your head out. I was almost going to start a company with Brett that solved that, made one that was, but
Kind
everyone's
of
tested
hard.
all of them. Yeah. What's that?
No, I said it will be kind of hard, especially for the materials that you could use for that type of
It
sauna.
would require it's like Brett is kind of a tinker or inventor, and it would have required some inventiveness. It wasn't just an easy solve.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually myself, I I love all these modalities and all these different things that you could do for health. I have interviewed tons, hundreds of people coming up with like different things and modalities, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is infrared sauna. And as you said, it's just so difficult. Like I've been also researching, reading about this. I laugh sometimes because I found this sauna, infrared sauna, that, you know, it states that it's good quality, it's from wood from I don't know where in the world. And then in the small print, it says that just do not sit close to the light because the EMF levels are super high and can cause like some sort of like cancer and stuff like that, right? Because the EMF is so strong. Or I read comments on people that they're like, yeah, well, it's good, but you cannot sit in certain areas of your sauna. You're paying thousands of dollars for this. The things that you want them for health reasons, to detoxify, for skin problems, all these things, right? And
Yeah.
yet, we have to be very careful, as you mentioned, because all these people and companies claim to do a good thing, but then it might backfire you if you don't do the research. So, you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, it's brutal in the sauna space. It's brutal in the supplement space. I think the Facebook groups are a really powerful tool because
hmm
that group is 50,000 members. We're
yeah,
all kind of in the same mindset of I've had issues and I didn't get solutions and I'm here to be my own advocate. And
yeah,
so the guy who runs it, Brett, he's probably the most researched person on saunas in the world. That's just what he lives and breathes. And so he's tested like all
a
of
lot of
these
them.
saunas as well as people in the group. And so really there's only a handful that and some of a couple of the major brands actually don't pass this test. Like they'll use bamboo in their builds, which is actually a toxic material. Um, and when you call them on it,
Right.
they just like it doesn't like want to register for some reason because it's just too inconvenient. Um,
Yeah. And it's
so
just unfortunately,
yeah, I mean, look, like they're trying to run a business. It's complicated. If people don't care, they don't care. It's not as big a deal as you're saying. Like there's a lot of ways to rationalize. So it was interesting to see that component of it as well.
have you guys found like a good brand that, or some sort of equipment that you're like, this is still has low EMF, but it's good, or
Yeah,
you guys said,
fortunately,
okay,
yeah, I won't say anything bad about anyone.
of
But I'll tell you
course.
who the good. I'll tell you who according to the group's current research we know is low EMF and toxin free for infrared saunas. That would be I'll say the big company in the space is Clearlight.
Okay,
Um, Jacuzzi Clearlight. So
okay.
they do you are safe with their infrared saunas.
hmm What are some of the things, like I know you mentioned you went to this health scare. How do you feel now? What are some of the good changes that you have find out now that you've been using sauna for sweat?
I mean, it's night and day. My mental clarity is better. Like I feel like a 5-year-old again. In terms of like mental clarity, my mood
Mm-hmm.
is better. I'd say instead of like a 2 to 3 out of 10 every moment to moment, it's like a 8 to 9 moment to moment. Um, I look at pictures of myself. My eyes have just like a different character to them because I can feel more like life force. Because I think a big part of this kind of paradigm is believing that these toxins poison mitochondria or
Mm-hmm.
affect mitochondria function, which is,
Right.
again, I'm not a doctor, but the idea that they affect energy production. And so when you get them out, your energy comes back. And so I think, you kind of start to go, wait, is the entire world kind of getting poison dripped by these substances as we get older? And that's why people feel like they lose their childlike kind of vibe. And it's like kind of just wreaking havoc quietly in the background. So instead of,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not dead, even if you're not where I was, you're instead of operating at 100%, you're at 80% all the time. So it's completely transformed. It's like wearing sunglasses and taking them off after a long time. This
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the only thing I did, but it was the most foundational kind of everything else wouldn't have mattered if I didn't kind of handle this building block. And I don't think I'm some unique case here. I think that's common kind of across the board.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, and like that you touch on like a lot of these, like people in general, I think in our society run on very low battery. They're
Mm.
very like tired all the time. And a lot of people think that's normal, whether it's because like I work too much or, I'm just tired because I was busy or because they're getting older and things
Yeah.
like that. And I think it's just something that we should rewrite and be like, no, I should not be feeling this tired. There's there's a fine line of like, you did so many physical things, physical and mentally throughout the day that now you're like, okay, you are tired. But there's that fine line of like, you're always tired. You cannot really function. Like you have to, you're sleeping half of the day, you don't feel 100%. I think we should rewrite that concept and be like, no, let me sit back a little bit and why am I tired?
Yeah, I think for sure. In my case, it was just so extreme that there's an idea called region beta paradox I recently saw, which is essentially it's like, let's say your apartment has like a little bit of a mold problem, but you barely notice it. So you just live in that apartment for 5 years.
Mm.
Or let's say it gets out of control and you're like, I can't stay here anymore. And you call 10 different properties, find another place and move it the next day. Because region beta paradox is when something's in kind of a gray zone where it's not extreme enough for you to make a change, you'll just let that go on. Or you can use a relationship example, like it's not great, it's not bad, I'm kind of in the middle, versus a horrific fight that makes you really analyze it and make a decision. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, that was it wasn't a relationship, but my health was in that sort of black and white. This is terrible and I need to solve this now. And so most people don't have that. And so that motivation kicked in out of necessity. And I wouldn't wish it on myself, but I'm glad it did because it taught me way more than I would know if I was kind of hovering at that like 6 out of 10 during that period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's an interesting kind of way to look at it. I think I just, I also think it's hard for people because, if you look at someone who's in great shape, you have kind of a visual of where they're at physically. But it's kind of harder to read or kind of take the leap of faith that on the other side of this, there's a way better feeling version of you
Mm-hmm.
without doing it. And so it's hard to kind of like what I did. Part of my motivation was I saw people I respected in the natural health world. And I looked at them like, they're more vibrant than I am. They have more energy. Like they look less brain foggy. They speak more clearly. There's something different going on. And I need to pattern what they're doing and see if
Mm-hmm.
that will help me. And one of those pieces was sauna. And that's what ended up being the most transformative.
That's awesome. What are some of the cool points that you learned writing this book or your favorite points from your book?
Yeah, I mean, I think the just that shift in belief that this is the most important. Like, if you buy into these facts, this is perhaps the most important thing you could do for your health, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a huge thing that I'm trying to help bring to the mainstream consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Another, an extreme example that kind of brought a lot of clarity to this is extreme cases of toxicity, right? So we're all getting exposure to these substances, and I go into detail of what these substances are and what they do. But an extreme example that I researched and talked to people who experienced it was 9/11. So 9/11 victims, if you were downtown, you were inhaling these fumes just
Right.
for an extended period of time. And thousands of people couldn't go to work, chronic
Mm-hmm.
fatigue, brain fog, tremors, neurological issues, depression, bipolar, schizophrenic responses, um, everything. They tried a bunch of different modalities for people. Some people just went to their doctor, they put them on pills. Some people went to, massage or just tried everything. And it reminded me of my journey, which is like everything has a place, but none of it's as important as this. And this is
Mm-hmm.
why. So they started a clinic doing something called the niacin sauna protocol. They put 500 people through it. All 500 people got better. 85% of them got off of medications, I think, in the first 3 months that they were using.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it just dwarfed every other healing tool applied to it
Okay.
because it got to the core. And so
Mm-hmm.
the niacin sauna protocol is niacin is a vitamin that you take, vitamin B, totally safe. But what it induces something called lipolysis, which actually, to keep it simple, it opens fat cells. And your
Mm-hmm.
fat, a lot of these chemicals are lipophilic and fat loving, so they store in your fat and they
Mm-hmm.
stay there. So, you think of forever chemicals. Some of these substances stay in there for like 30 years and slowly leak out and cause problems, or stay in them and poison the mitochondria. I don't want to get too deep, but the idea is they time that with the sauna. And so at a certain time, I think about 2.5 to 3 hours in after taking the niacin, the fat cells open, releases it, and then you sweat it out. And so it's a much deeper detox than a traditional sauna. And you should
Mm-hmm.
really only do it with with a coach. And I can link someone whose father actually ran that clinic in 9/11. The guy's name is Dan Root, who
Mm-hmm.
still coaches people through this protocol.
Nice.
Crazy results.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, that's an extreme example that proved the detox. First of all, that toxins are an issue because it caused this issue in thousands and thousands of people at an extreme level. But then
Mm-hmm.
that this is the absolute best way to heal from these substances, or get them
Yeah.
out, rather. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I heard something too. I follow this group in Maui,
Mm-hmm.
and with the horrific thing that happened to them when everything got burned and all that.
Yeah.
A lot of the people there do, holistic healing and things like that, holistic modalities, I guess, and a lot of the practitioners there also were doing some of this. So I thought it was
Oh,
amazing.
cool.
I feel like we don't give a lot of credit to simple things like that because if we're feeling bad, what do? We go to the doctor, and the doctor, might do a test or not, or just look at you and be like, "Do you feel sad?" Kind of like we go through there first, right? They're like, "Do you have emotional problems?" But they don't really find out what is really happening to you.
Yeah.
And out of 1,000 doctors, maybe one might tell you try to sweat because that might help you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the it's obvious that like the incentive structure is off for the medical system.
Yeah.
Their incentive isn't, and it just is what it is, but it currently isn't, how do we make the healthiest, most vibrant population possible? Like if you're a
Hmm.
startup and that's your mission, that drives every decision you make. But that's
Yeah.
not what the North Star of the medical system is. And it's great for certain things. If I break my leg or break my arm, I want to go to a doctor who's been trained to handle that. But I'm
Yeah.
not going to them to become the healthiest, most vibrant version myself. It
Yeah, for
reminds me
sure.
of, have you ever seen The Big Short, the movie?
The movie sounds familiar.
It was Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell, about Wall Street, the '08 crisis.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
had.
there's a scene where I just saw this clip and it reminded me of this. There's a scene where Ryan Gosling's trying to convince these hedge fund guys that there's going to be a mortgage crisis, and no one thinks that that's the case. And they're like, and he presents it, and it makes a lot of sense. But they say to
Mhm.
him, "Well, oh, like you're like some magic guy who just like figured this out, and no one else is seeing this." And he's like, "Yeah, pretty much. Like everyone else is asleep. Everyone else is asleep at the wheel. My entire department thinks I'm crazy, but the facts are the facts." And so that's a little bit of how I felt writing the book, which is like, oh, who am I to write this or to put these ideas together? Or where is a crack in the argument? Are toxins not as bad as the studies are showing? Is sweat not actually a way to detox? Is the niacin sauna protocol not work? Are there problems with it? And so far, I haven't heard any cracks or any feedback that's led me to believe these arguments aren't accurate. And so it really does present uh, uh, a really important new lens on thinking about our health that I'm just trying
Mhm.
to spread and share.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's great. I feel like the more we're open to do things for health, especially when some of those are like free, like go for a walk, sweat a little bit,
Fast.
get some
Yeah.
sun, Ground yourself, walk on the grass. All these things that are free and they're like basic to our nature, to your humankind, I guess. You know, it's so simple, and we still just want like a little pill. Take this syrup, or take this medicine, or take this pill, or injection. I don't know, whatever that is. I think we've been so trained, in our modern times to get some of that, and then that will be like the solution for our health.
Yeah.
And we're such a complex machine, if you will. We're like the perfect machine, actually,
Yeah.
that can, you know, absorb all these toxins and be able to take them out. You know, we
With help.
we
Yeah.
can, yeah, like we have a our nighttime is the time to, when we sleep, our body recuperates from all these things that we do through the day, like drinking, smoking, just breathing bad air, drinking bad water, sitting in a weird position, like all these things, our body tries to recuperate. So we have this
Mm.
amazing machine, and we just, like as you said, we don't understand there's so many things that we could do for ourselves. And if you really kind of like open our heart, open our mind, that it's not gonna be just a pill if you want optimal health.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think what at first when I was going through these problems, I thought there was something wrong with my body, but it was actually empowering to realize my body was doing its best while dealing with an extreme toxic load. And
Mhm.
so getting those substances out of the body allowed the body to work how it's meant to work, which is, you know, remarkable. So it's kind of an empowering paradigm, I think, as well. It's like, oh, when you assist your body in getting these this modern issue out of your system, these chemicals, these petrochemicals, these biotics, your body's going to
Mhm.
function the way it should, the way it's trying to at its best, even though it's dealing with all these things, but you're helping it out by getting them out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure. What are from your book? What would you tell? How would you explain your book to people that are like, well, I'm a little curious about that blue book right there.
Yeah. Sweat. Sweat is a practical book about sweat's wildly underappreciated role in health, vitality, and disease prevention, and provides the exact steps, the exact. That's kind of the one sentence to expand on it, and gives
Mm-hmm.
practical steps for making sweat a regular part of your life, which will transform your health.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to me, it's always mind blowing. I'm like, this is so simple. What are we doing?
Well, there's not a lot of money to be made in it. You can start a sauna company. The supplements you take are cheap. Like it's much easier to sell Ozempic than
Yeah,
the idea that you should sweat more. So marketing follows dollars, and it's just difficult to share that.
yeah. Now that you're feeling better than before when you start this journey,
Yeah.
um, how do you go about your life now? What are the priorities? How has sweat now it's incorporated to your daily life? Is it one of those things that people are like, well, I'm gonna sweat for a month and then I'm gonna feel good and that's it. I'm gonna just not do it ever. How do you how you have deal with this to incorporate it to your life and make it part of um your health structure and your daily life in general.
Yeah, I think we move towards things where we associate positive emotions to them. And so for me, saunas since the start, I've associated a lot of positive things to it because of how much it every time I do it, I feel better. And it's
Hmm.
easy to do. So that it's like it's um it's not a willpower thing for me to use the sauna. And for a lot of people who get into it, it's also not a willpower thing.
Hmm.
So I'll do it 3 to 5 times a week, probably for half an hour. I've also made it really easy because I have one in my home. And I think for people looking to get into it, you have two options. You can, and I lay it out in my book how you can find one in your area in terms of like public sauna options. or you can purchase one for your home. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Are those the saunas at the gym? Do you recommend those? Because I know like most of the gyms have like some sort of sauna.
Well, the steam, I don't. If they have a dry sauna, I think it's better than not doing it for sure.
Hmm.
For those reasons that they're usually on like 12 plus hours a day. So it's off gas a lot of the materials if they use bad things in the materials. And you're more likely sweating out more than you'd be breathing in.
Hmm.
Ideally, there's not a ton of people in them. You don't want to be in there with like 12 other people and people aren't wiping themselves down, and sauna etiquette's a whole other conversation. Um, but
Oh.
it's totally good. And group sauna is kind of it's a very cultural um, cultures around the world really embrace group sauna. There's a
Hmm.
real, isn't it really interesting? That deserves a whole other conversation
Yeah.
about the benefits of group sauna.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. And then just for people that are listening, because you talk about the steam sauna and the dry sauna, how can like if I go to the gym, how do
Mhm.
I know it's a dry
Steam.
sauna?
Okay, yeah. So
Or
the steam you can't really see; it's filling the air with water vapor.
hmm.
And then a dry sauna, you're going to see everything. It's just the heat is in the heat's heat in the air, and it's totally dry. Which is the actually you're never going to have mold in a dry sauna because it's just so dry. So you just look in if it's foggy in there, it's the steam room. If it's completely dry, it's dry sauna or infrared sauna.
Okay. And for the steam one,
Yeah.
is there like someone actually inputting water there, or it's just like automatic to create that steam, or how does that work? Because I don't
This
think I
that's
ever seen one of those.
It's a good question. I just learned really early on that it's a no-go. So
Okay,
so I didn't research it that much because it was just not important.
of
So
course.
I'm not sure how the steam is created. It's a good question.
I'll look it up too.
Yeah. If they use
I'll put.
extremely purified water and checked it for mold, maybe, but like it still doesn't make sense. You're also blocking your ability to sweat partially because you've got water
Because
vapors in
of the
you.
humidity.
It's silly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay, so that'll do it. And then, yeah. One more question too.
Sure.
Because it made me think about now with this new technology and stuff, people that travel select and that are into health things, now
Mhm.
they have these travel sauna infrared bags. Well, how did you find
Blankets.
it? Blankets? Yes. They look like sleeping bags, but yes. What do you think about that? Have you come across any
Um,
information that might be good for people that, especially that are traveling all the time and they can't be like going to these sauna places? Maybe they want to do it from their hotel and then go about their day. What
yeah.
have you found about those?
Not great. Kind of falls in the portable sauna category. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as of my latest checking on it, nothing in the market is good for it. So if you're traveling, Google Mapsing the area for wellness spas, or if your hotel has one. I'm, I'd love it if there was a good option. I just haven't seen it. And the
Mm-hmm.
same with the portable side. So, if anyone wants to start a company in that space, there's some opportunity.
We'll have to
You're just
look
gonna have to
into
badmouth everyone else and reveal to
it.
the world that they're cutting corners.
Yes, yes. Okay. That's awesome because I think I also I have spoke to other people too that talk about these saunas, and it's kind of hard. Like we, as you said, you really have to do the research, see what these saunas are built with, what's the material, what they do, the EMF, the radiation that you're absorbing from these things. Because at the end of the day, you want to get healthier and not worse than how you started, because it defeats the purpose. And also, I think because these things are so expensive.
Yeah, you want to make sure you're getting the right one. Um, and there's a few things to keep your eye out for. I lay a lot out of my book about it. Um,
Hmm.
I'll just show. Just a quick plug right here.
Yeah.
It's under 130 pages. It's an easy read, um, and it'll give you all the information you need. I also think we should link to that Facebook group because I think it's a lot of valuable information in there where you can kind of get your
Hmm.
feet wet in terms of understanding what saunas to get. Brett also where helps people find the right saunas. Um, but yeah, it's frustrating. It's easy to become a cynic, I guess, in this space. But fortunately, there are some good actors out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody wants to sell everything, right? And as you said, it becomes a business too.
Yep.
I have a question for everybody that's listening. For saunas, is there an age limit? Can everybody do it? Or not for kids, not for pregnant women, or in general, do it?
Pregnant women, I believe it's not a good idea. It's a great thing to do before you get pregnant. I actually think every pregnant woman should, sorry, anyone preparing to get pregnant should go through the
Yeah,
niacin sauna protocol.
yeah,
One of the studies in my book shows, I think 287. They tested the newborn's blood, and they found 287 chemicals in it passed down
yeah.
from the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then these chemicals, there's again not medical advice and just from my research, these chemicals are
Yeah,
linked to uh, cognitive performance declines. So
yeah.
you're taking IQ points off.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, people have done the NICE protocol and done before and after IQ tests and improved. The brain's
Yeah.
60% fat, so lipophilic
A lot of the
chemicals will
toxins
store in
go
it.
there. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so I highly recommend um, pregnant women, I'm sorry, people planning to get pregnant go through the niacin sauna protocol. I don't believe pregnant women is a good idea. I could have done a better job. You're actually the first person to kind of bring this up to me. I could have done a better job listing some like contraindications of like if you have XYZ, don't do a sauna. I think I mentioned if you have
Mm-hmm.
heart problems, don't do a sauna. Pregnant woman, I believe it's not a good idea, but I can double check on that.
Yeah. That's for your next edition of the book. You can
Second
definitely add
edition,
that.
I
Yeah,
can.
second edition. I mean, there's
I'm
always
so
a second good. So also too, I don't know if you also research the people that has pressure problems, heart pressure or any heart problems. Is
mm.
it good for them?
It's incredibly good for preventing cardiovascular disease. Once you
Mm-hmm.
have heart issues, I don't have a good
So,
answer on like I think you kind of like have to follow maybe your doctor's advice on whether sauna is okay for you, depending on what stage you're at of like heart issues,
hmm,
because
yeah,
it's gonna get your heart going. It almost feels like a mild workout.
yeah.
It's kind of a trippy experience for people the first time because you're just sitting there and sweating.
And it's
Then
going.
it's going, feels like you're like doing a pretty heavy jog there. But it's totally normal. So
Hmm. I like that you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of people goes in the sauna and then they start feeling so like weird and oddly because they have never truly have sit there for like 20, 15 minutes. So
yeah,
they get out of there. But
yeah.
I feel like if you try it, do you stay there for at least, I'll say, what do you think, 25 minutes, 30 minutes to really feel the actual benefit of it?
Yeah, so it's a great point. There's no reason to, you should push yourself a little bit, but there's no
Mm-hmm.
reason to kill yourself. So you're going to build up a tolerance. You might only be able to go in the sauna for 7 minutes and you're like, I'm
Mm,
out. But you can get out, grab some good water in your towel, drink for a couple minutes, and then go back in. And it's going to feel like you're starting from scratch, but your body's actually getting ready to sweat if it hasn't started already. So it's total. I take breaks. I mean, I'll open the door, I'll step out for a few minutes and come back in. I'm not there to prove anything to anyone. I'm literally just in there to get
no one's watching you.
to get the end result, which is just mostly excreting. So it's weird. I don't think of it this way, but it really is just I'm in there to excrete toxins. It's like the goal. So
Yeah, to get the healthier.
yeah,
And what better way to do it by sweating? So yeah, if you ever want to give it a try to do sauna, try to stay for a little bit. Don't. Don't just run out and never come back. Try it again because it does feel personally, the first few times that I tried it, I was like, I'm feeling claustrophobic. This
Mm,
is hot. I felt like, all these things inside me. I need to get out. And this
yeah.
happens like within the first 30 minutes. Obviously extreme case, but I'm like, I can't do it. Like you really have to, as you said, maybe take a break, come back, try it again. Because the more you do it, the more you start understanding what your body is doing.
Hmm.
And yes, you're gonna start at some point, once you start kind of like breaking that sweat, your heart is going.
Hmm.
And you're like, what is going on? Am I having a heart attack? No, you're not. It's just, all this heat, that just kind of like you're working out. You're about to, you're working out, your heart is going, and then you start breaking a sweat type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I even make it easier for myself because I have a sauna at home with glass. So I'll put like a podcast on or a movie on. Um, I wouldn't recommend going into a sauna with headphones or your phone or something like that, unfortunately, in a public sauna or even at home. But if you
Hmm.
have your own sauna, having something outside the glass, a lot of them have Bluetooth. You can actually sync it. Not
Hmm.
ideal, but or even just hear it through the computer speakers. So it's not about making it hard, but it's definitely don't go into it thinking it's the easiest thing in the world. Kind of like if you want to get good in the gym, it's there's a process to getting accustomed to it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like we're just talking about it so lightly. We're like, yeah, get into the sauna. And, there's going to be like 5, 10 people that are like, I heard this sauna thing is good. And it's in my gym. I'm going to try it. And they go inside for 2, 3 minutes and they feel all these feelings. And they're like, nope, I'm out. So, as
There's
anything,
a
just go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was gonna say there's also kind of an emotional component to it. I'm sure you've
Yes.
studied like I'm guessing because you're into this healing stuff, like the release work or like emotions
Yes.
and energetics. A lot of the cultures used it for more of the quote unquote like spiritual reasons. And there is
Hmm.
definitely a sense of like emotions coming up that are getting
Hmm.
cleared kind of feeling sometimes. Uh, with the niacin sauna protocol, it'll release drug residue that's been stored in the fat cells. And so some people they took, you know, cocaine or acid in the past, maybe even years ago, and
Hmm.
they'll start to feel those emotions because it's being released. So yeah, keep an eye out. The drug thing, if you're not doing the niacin sauna protocol, it's probably not a problem. But uh, if you're just getting in the sauna, just keep an eye out for emotions coming up. It's a good thing though.
It is. It is. I feel like, especially in those moments when your body it's feeling on these feelings with certain modalities, just kind of
Yeah.
like take it all in, take it slow. Nobody is rushing your life. If you're in a sauna, uh, as we said, take breaks, go in, see how you're feeling, go outside, drink water, come out. And talking about the drinking water, is there something that you have found out to be super beneficial? Because I know sweating, um,
Mhm.
does it sweating dehydrates you? Is that
Yeah,
like a okay? So
it
what are
certainly
some
does.
of the things that you do to kind of like replenish your body?
Yeah, so you're gonna lose some minerals through it. You're gonna want to just I try and get sort of the most I think bioavailable is the term, but just the most nutrient dense substances into me
Hmm.
to kind of counteract that. So for one, I think that's my bottle right there. Like real spring water, not
Hmm.
like reservoir water, which is most brands. So you're gonna want to get like bottled spring water. I think Shasta is a brand, and then the more common one that you could find in a Whole Foods or anywhere is this green bottle behind me, which is Mountain Valley. That's going to actually
Hmm.
contain trace amounts of potassium and other substances that are good to replenish with. A lot of people
Hmm.
use electrolyte packs like Element,
Hmm.
and then I also recommend just eating a really nutrient dense diet rather than these like individualized substances, which we don't nothing against them. Maybe there's different arguments about it, but getting it from like a whole food, maybe like um, organs, beef liver
Hmm.
is incredibly nutrient dense, and even just like
Yeah.
a square little piece per day does a great job to kind of replenish, because you
Mhm.
know the two in that school of thought, the two main buckets you're focusing on for health are toxicity. So you're handling that primarily through this, and then deficiency. Um, and that's a whole other argument for why we're deficient in so many things in terms of the topsoil being degraded, and just almost everyone's deficient
Mhm.
in a lot of necessary components for a healthy functioning body. And so supplementing properly and eating as nutrient dense a diet as humanly possible is helpful for that.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And to finish this amazing conversation, what are some of the tips, or if you want to close with something about your book for our audience, that you want to tell us?
Sure. Well, it's available on Amazon. It's available in Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook is coming. Uh, I, I put a lot into this, and I think it's worth everyone reading. It's really quick, easy read. I try not to put too much fluff in it, so it's just kind of jam packed with the important stuff. And I hope you read it, and I encourage you to implement what you learn, because it could change your life and the lives of those close to you. It's been really cool to share this information with friends and family at first, and see them take on these habits and just kind of the crazy changes they've experienced. So I wish that for other people as well.
No, thank you. Thank you for bringing all this information. I feel like there should be more of this out there, but unfortunately, as you mentioned, it takes one of us not feeling well and try to look for a solution. So
Mm.
we're so grateful that you came out with this book. I will put the link on the show notes too for anyone that wants to buy the book. It's called Sweat by Justin Glaser. It's available in Amazon. If anyone wants to look for you or has any question, where can they find you?
Yeah, I love to hear from people. You can email me at justin@sweattthebook.com. So that's my email. My Twitter handle is Hey Justin Glaser, Glaser. And then my Instagram is Justin Glaser 7. Those are the three
Uh,
best.
Awesome. And I will also put that information in the show notes for everybody out there. Thank you, Justin, for being here today. This was great. I think we should have more conversation about this. It's such an important topic. So thank you for being here today. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. If you want to know more about my podcast or everything that I'm doing, you can find me at alexbalgood.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere out there. Also, remember my book, it's out and it's called Parents Are Greatest Teachers. It's also available at Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Justin, again. And
Thank
for
you.
everybody, have a blessed day.